Hey, so welcome. This is the tutorial for how to set up HandsVR with your own virtual reality project in Unity for the HTC Vive. I'm going to go ahead and create a new Unity project. I'm actually going to grab a few custom assets just to represent what bringing in some of your own objects will be like. Alright. I'm just going to set up a quick, let's see, ground scene and dim the lights a little bit. Go ahead and delete this camera, and then I'm going to do two things. I'm going to bring up the Asset Store tab so I can get the Steam VR plugin, which you need to work with the HTC Vive. There we go. And I'm just going to accept all the default settings for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and download. Oh, actually, it's still loading. And then I'm going to go ahead and find HandsVR. And import that. And so for the import settings, all you technically need to make it work is the hand mesh folder and the prefabs folder. Everything else, and the scripts folder. Everything else is just kind of demo content, but I would suggest the first time importing everything, just so you can jump back and forth between the example project as you're getting used to it the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and make a scenes folder and call this my scenes. And we're going to come back to this because first we're going to go ahead and jump into the HandsVR example scene. And as you can see, oops, it forgot one of the shaders for the sparks. There we go. And then I think it's because it needs like the Steam VR package or something like that to be in at the same time. So you can see what we've got here. We've got a bunch of different props that you can pick up. Go ahead, turn off the gizmos just so it's a little bit easier to look at. We've got a left and a right hand dummy, and what those are for is just for practice setup, so you can get used to and kind of get the settings set up first, but we'll go over that in a second. Just going to go ahead and unparent this. So if we play it, you'll notice that these hands are where the VR thing is, and here's the camera. So everything's working here. And mostly what we're going to cover in this tutorial is just how to set it up with your own objects and in your own scene. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump back into my scenes. and what we're going to do is get the Steam VR plug-in camera rig, and the way that'll work is you can now look around, and if I turn on the hand controllers, you can see both of these right in front of me. So that's what you've got by default, and all you need to do to get my plugin working is go into the HandsVR root, go to prefabs, and then you grab the hands prefab and you drag that in, and then you parent that to the camera rig and you zero out the position and rotation. And the hands prefab root is just to help center both of them. Now I can just parent the right to the right, and it'll ask me to break the prefab instance. We're going to go ahead and do that. And the left to the left. And if you did it right, the position should be zeroed out for both of them. It should have a rotation and scale. That's fine. And we can go ahead and delete the root hands prefab. And then what we need to do is we need to get the input. So we're going to drag our controller right into here. Go to left hand, get the controller left into here. And now I believe we can go and play it. Let me throw my headset on. Pick up the controllers. And you'll notice I still have the 5 controllers on there right now. But I can turn them off in a second. And right now when I press the trigger button, you can see the trigger button getting pressed. When I press the trigger button, it closes the hand. Yep. And at this point, you can also, just in the editor, looking at it right here, you can reposition the hands however you want. So I find that positioning the hand like this feels very natural, but if you wanted to reposition it to be exactly how the hands are, just kind of holding it, you would go to the right hand, select that, and then rotate it around this and move it like that. And then once you were happy with that, you would just copy the component right there and then paste it. And now you can see how it's maybe feels a little bit closer to what you would want, or any adjustment that you would want to make. I'm going to go ahead and undo that real quick. So the main thing is setting up your own kind of pick-upable objects. So in order to do that, if we look back at the example scene in HandsVR, we'll see that in the all pickups kind of game object that holds up all the pickups, if we select these, it'll have a rigid body, a mesh collider, and a pickup script. So the pickup script is the important part, and this is all we need to set up. And then we have to make sure that the tag is pickup so that the hand controllers will find it. So we can jump back into my scene, which will be your custom scene. And then for this demo, I'm just going to use this skull model that I made a little while ago. I'm actually going to pull the mesh out of the hierarchy just so it'll be easier to set up a collider on it. And then it's important to have it set to convex if you want it to be able to be dropped, because otherwise it'll just fall through like the ground or something like that. And then we also need to add a pickup script, and then we need to tag it. Oops. We need to tag it as being a pickup. So as far as the type of object, and this is sort of like what animation it should go to for the hands, I'm going to go ahead and set it to a miscellaneous. And miscellaneous is the kind of the most forgiving type. You can kind of pick it up from any angle, and the hand is just kind of like a grabbing animation. I'm gonna set these all to 0 for now, and then all I gotta do is drag itself into the whole point. Oh, I still need a rigid body. Drag itself into the rigid body, and then actually for the whole point, I can drag itself because the whole point is where to grab it from. So if this was a sword, then I would create a new child object and like move it out to the side where the hilt is. But for this object, since it's just a miscellaneous, it's much easier. So I can just do that, and then we can set the squeeze value after we give it a test. So let's see, that's pickup. That's set to the convex mesh collider. And you can use any kind of collider. It doesn't have to be a mesh one, but that's easy for using simple objects. Alright, I'm actually just going to drag this over here so it's super easy for me to pick up. I'm going to put on the headset. Let's see. Too far away. Alright, so I was able to grab it, but I'm realizing how big the skull is, so I'm going to go ahead and change that. Also, the material of it is being a little bit weird, so I'm just going to click on it, and yeah, this is set to gray instead of white. Maybe mess with the smoothness a little bit. And then I'm just going to scale it way down. The collider should scale with it. And then maybe I'll even change the grab range to be a little bit more, but it was a pretty gigantic object. So let me try this again real quick. Oh, it's actually a little bit too tiny now. But now that I've got it picked up, I can see what the squeeze animation that I want is. And you know what? Actually, let me go ahead and turn off the model right now because that's getting a little bit distracting. So all I have to do to turn off the default model is just uncheck this really quick, and then when the game starts, it won't create that. Let's see. So it turns out that I thought the pivot was in the center, but it's because I had it on center instead of pivot. So the pivot's down here, which is why it was selecting weird. So I am actually going to go ahead and create an object. And I'm going to call it hold point, but the name doesn't actually matter. I'm going to call this skull. So I'm going to drag the hold point in there so it'll grab it from the center. Oops, I didn't actually position this yet. So I'm going to undo that, and then I'm going to drag this, and it just has to be roughly in the center. And sometimes this can be kind of tricky to set up because the Steam VR scale is so small. So a lot of the times I'll just like scaling everything up a little bit. So you can definitely go ahead and do that. Alright, that should improve it a lot. Let me try to pick it up now. Alright, getting a lot closer. Still actually a little bit too small for me, but before I fix that, I'm going to go ahead and grab, I'm going to collapse this so it's a little bit easier to see. I'm going to grab the squeeze value and mess with that a little bit. So actually that looks a lot better already. And what the squeeze value does is, let's see if where is he? If I select this hand mesh here and go into the animator, it actually determines how to tween this sort of squeeze thing going on here. So if I go into the skull, can change the squeeze value to something that feels closer to what it actually would line up as. So I'm like, okay, the squeeze value of 0.6 looks pretty good. So I'll set it to 0.6. And then now, when I play it, looks a little bit better. And maybe the solution here to get it even a little bit better still is to give it a bigger grab range, so I get a little bit more distance between it. Or maybe the sphere grab type would work better, because that plays a slightly different animation. Oh, now I really need the grab range because it's just grabbing it from the exact center. So the way that I can figure out, how much to offset this distance by, and this is how you're able to, set up any object, is I parent the hold point to the grab point, and it should be at zeroed out because this is what's syncing it, and then the scroll back to the hold point, and then all I have to do is move the hold point. And the moving it can be a little bit tricky because with the tracked it'll mess with you, but you should be able to get it. So maybe that looks better. And I can also, be adjusting the squeeze value. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Let me adjust the whole point back a little bit. And I can set the rotation too. Let's just set the position first. So here are the position values. I could write that down, or if I wanted to, I could copy this component so I won't have to remember the values, go into the skull, temporarily paste these values, and then copy these values down here. So I was picking it up by the left hand, so here's what we're going to do, is set all these values for the left hand held position. And then we're going to copy the component so that we can just undo all these changes. And this is kind of a wonky workaround, but it lets you get those values in really fast, and then I can just paste the component values over it. All right, let's see if that held on to what I wanted it to. Get to the left hand again. Yeah, and then when I picked it up, it grabbed it from farther away. And then, say, sometimes in some rotations, the thumb clips through it, and, I want it to be, set to a specific hold point. Like, say, you want the player to see it from a specific place, then, I do the same thing where you parent the hold point to the grab point, and then the object back to the hold point, and then, I just rotate it however, you want it to be rotated. So maybe like that would be best. And then I can just copy the component, go to the skull, paste the component, and this time I'm just gonna get the left held rotation values. Copy this component, and then that way I can just undo the changes. So that the skull goes back to where it was. Then I can paste the values over it again. And let's give it a try. like it's not picking it up from that angle. It could be that it's looking for both these values. So let's go ahead and set it up with the right hand and see if that helps. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the right hand, parent the whole point to the grab point, scroll to the whole point, then just kind of move it to be in a better place. Copy the component, stop play mode, click on the skull, paste the component, then copy these values in there. And you can just write these down so you don't have to, do all these copying and then undos. But for me, it's been the fastest way to get these properties in there. And then we're going to do it again for the rotation. Stop the playing, paste the component, and then you can just easily grab these values. Copy this, undo, and paste the new values. All right, let's see if it works for us now. The rotation that we set up. Yeah, it looks like no matter where we grab it from, it'll set to that. So it looks like in order to get your set rotation to work, you have to get the right rotation to be set up first, because it does a little check. If you just have the rotation set to 0, 0, 0, it assumes that you want a dynamic pickup rotation. So you should set up the right hand first, because then it'll know to grab whatever rotation values you have there and then add it there. So so that's now working great. So no matter how I pick it up, it'll always default to that. Great. And then I can go ahead and pick it up with my other hand to show that the left hand's now working once we set up the left hand. Sorry, the left hand's now working now that we set up the right hand. And no matter which way I pick it up, it'll always be facing us and this is really great for picking up objects that you really want a specific sync with the object. Awesome. So let me know in the comments if this made sense to you, or there's something else you want me to go over or add to HandsVR. I'm really excited for you guys to have a chance to work with this. I think it's a really great tool, and it will really help a lot of people get started on their virtual reality games or projects. So have a good one.